time. So I'm unmuting us. Let's see.
I don't think we're going to be able to approve minutes.
Let's see, unless somebody's online.
Nope, nobody's online yet.
Ah,
Susanna said she might be a little bit late, so she might be coming. And Katrina said she might have to Zoom in. I didn't hear from anybody else.
So,
But you're four.
Or
out of 9, it has to be 5 out of 9.
So let's move any voting, maybe Susanna will be able to join us and we can do that. I don't think there'll be too much other voting tonight. So you're right with that chair.
Absolutely.
All right, that's always a little alarming. Let's start with a round of introductions as always. I'll kick us off, let's go around the room. And since there's nobody on the Zoom, it'll be a little bit nicer. So as you all know, I'm Emily Flynn. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness for the City of Kingston. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the staff liaison for Well Kingston.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Marcia Sebra. I'm a project manager with the Health and Wellness Department for the City of Kingston.
Captain Eric Means, Administrator Ambassador for the Salvation Army, Ulster, Northwest Dutchess County.
Troy Ellen Dixon, my pronouns are she, her, aya, and I am the chair of the Live Well Kingston Commission.
Malia Dumont, she, her, I'm just a commissioner.
You can identify whoever you'd like.
Oh, yeah, I'm a resident of the Rondout,
Yeah.
Well Kingston, and I'm happy to be on this commission.
Oh, I'll go. My name is Kristen Kessler. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a project manager in the Department of Health and Wellness. I'll leave it at that.
All right.
My name is Heidi Kirschner. I'm with the YMCA. My pronouns are she, her, aya, and I'm commissioner on the Well.
Thank you, everybody, as always. So as we were just starting to say at the beginning, we'll move the meeting minutes voting, and I have some hard copies here. If anybody wants to look at them. We'll move that so we have a quorum. So that was just, it looks like we didn't have public comment tonight. So let's jump into administrative matters. So, and if you all saw the agenda, you saw that Vicki Gore has stepped down. She left her position at Gateway, right? Gateway, that's what and I am hoping to stay in contact with that organization. Maybe there's another one, if a new person in that department comes in, maybe I can bring them in. But as of right now, she didn't have a suggestion quite yet. Then that brings me to other administrative matters, which is about our commissioners. And as you see there, 2 of you will term limit out. Hey, Susanna, come on in.
Right, stand up again.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got agendas here. And Lindbergh. Let's keep going through some administrative matters and then we'll come back in just a minute.
Yes, we needed a quorum anyway for you. For
Oh, you.
the minutes, so thank you.
So unfortunately, Troy and Amelia, you will have served two-year terms this December. And our bylaws say that you have to clear up for at least a year. And also, as much as I would love to fight for both of you to stay, also I think it's an elegant way to let busy people also maybe take a step back if you need to. But I would love to have you both back, of course, so.
Troy Ellen as well, sorry, what's that?
And Malia.
Oh, okay.
Which will be a bit of a loss. Then Katrina and Sarah will just need to be reappointed. So they're finishing their first 2-year term. And then that leaves Eric and Heidi. You, I believe, are both, Eric, you're in your first year. Heidi, you're in your 3rd year. Lori's in her 3rd. Susanna, you're in your 3rd. Sorry, this is my box.
So the exit is next year.
There'll be every year, it's a little bit staggered, which is nice. So Dr. Lear is in year 1, so there's a little bit of some staggering happening. So that brings me to my homework assignment to you all, and that is to start thinking about, we'll have 4 open seats in January. Start thinking about if you think of a community member or here's an example. Place Corps has youth, and I was talking to Dawn, who's the director of that organization. I was asking her if she knew of a youth that was interested. And so she had someone popped in her mind. So it's possible we might be able to get someone from that. In the past, we've talked about trying to reach other demographics of our community. That's always still a point. So start thinking about it. My goal would be to try to invite them to the November meeting, which is usually a healthy potluck. It's a nice way to welcome people in. It's a little bit less formal. It's a nice way to sort of chit chat a little bit. And then the commission would hopefully vote on them in December so that they would be ready to be on board in January. Okay. Any questions about all of that?
Is there an age requirement?
There's not.
Okay.
So we have how many openings?
Well, we will have 4 in January.
Okay.
I see
They
that,
currently have 2.
right.
So we could, if somebody popped up, we could have them come to an October meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah. We've had one sort of open for a while.
I
That
know.
was Susie Jimenez's seat there for a little while. So we've had an open seat. But this is about typical. There's,
And just to
yeah.
confirm, Katrina and Sarah are up for reappointment, and those are 2 of the 4,
no. So
no?
where's my, take it up to my cheat sheet here.
We have
So
2 empty seats right now, right? And we're
we have
gonna
2
lose
empty seats right now.
Oh,
And then
hello?
Hey, Ellen. So Katrina and Sarah, I see that Katrina has joined us. Hi, Katrina.
Hey,
Do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
sure. I'm sorry I'm not there. I usually try to make it in person. I'm Katrina Williams. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the Ulster County Department of Mental Health.
Thank you so much, Katrina. So Katrina and Sarah are in there. They finished their first term, which is the 2 years. All that means is that they just have to be reappointed for their second term, assuming that they will stay on the commission. Does that help clarify that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and welcome Cindy. Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Cindy Neuro. I am on the Well Kingston team. And just hot over from Barman Park doing the weed whacking.
Love it. All right, and actually, here comes Dr. Later. Let's see if they hop in quickly. So as I was just sort of talking there about commissioner terms, any other questions? Dr. Later, if you can hear me, would you like to come on screen and introduce yourself?
Hi, Dr. Later. I'm a cardiologist from Health Alliance Hospitals. I have a technical problem, but now it looks like it's working.
Thanks so much for joining us. Okay. Those were my administrative matters. Any questions about that? Again, the homework assignment is to start thinking about other future commissioners. Okay. Seeing none, we'll jump back to the top of the agenda, which is approval of meeting minutes. I hope you all got a chance to look at them. There's 3 months of them. I've got a hard copy here if anyone would like to look at it. Any edits to any of the meeting minutes?
I'm just gonna point out that I've had a spate of absences, because this was a very busy spring, so I can't vote because I wasn't present for any of those meetings.
Actually, I think you can vote.
Can I vote on the minutes?
On
Even if I
minutes, you
wasn't-
can, because you read them, you don't need.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Those are 3 months, yeah.
All right, if anybody has any questions or edits? If not, I'm sort of talking slowly in case I bubble up.
That's good.
I could hear a motion to approve all 3 meeting minutes, if you guys are all right with that.
I make a motion to approve all 3 meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Heidi. Heidi seconds. I'll call a vote. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes for April, May, and June? Give me, if you're online, give me a thumbs up or an eye.
Thumbs up.
In person, thumbs up or an eye. Thank you, everybody. All right, that approved. That passes. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. That brings us to old business. Let's talk a little bit about community agreements. So I believe that at our last meeting, we reviewed this. And we can go through it a little bit again because it has been a while. the goal of these agreements are to set some values for the space that we hold together, sort of some expectations of how we hope to all join each other here. And the feedback I got from a few people were a couple of them were a little confusing. So I picked up quite a bit of copy from the Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative agreements. And also someone recommended to make them a little shorter and have less of them. I wasn't able to bring it down to 5, but I did combine a couple of them. So hopefully it's a little bit more abbreviated. I'll just go through them very quickly. Be curious, open, and respectful. So we ask people to ask questions before making assumptions. One voice at a time. I love that one, as it works well on Zoom, works well in person. We can't be all articulate all the time. We're going to give each other time to fumble with our words. We don't have to be precise with our language. That said, I'll jump down to jargon. If we start talking in jargon, please feel free to say, what does that mean? It's so easy to fall into that in health systems and transportation systems. Be conscious of intent and impact. So this is a kind of an important one, I think. No matter your intention, we are all responsible for our impact. And so if something strikes someone in an impactful way, I'd like to try to hold space. They can always come talk to me after the meeting if you'd like. We could try to discuss it. We could make other spaces to go through it. Take space, make space. This is a challenge that we all should lean into. Those of us who talk a lot, take a step back. Those of us who have quieter voices, we invite you to speak more. Be aware of time, pay attention to the conversation. Sometimes we call that Elmo. Enough already. How does Elmo go?
Enough, let's move on.
Yes.
Elmo.
Yes, which is a great jargon. It's a great acronym. And then finally, I just also really like to take care of ourselves. We have bathrooms right outside. Feel free to go get a drink if you ever need to. Stand up during a meeting. Do whatever you need to do to be able to join us in your physical body. Any questions about them? Any edits? So my goal here is that we would at some point take a vote on this document and sort of make it a Live Well Kingston endorsed guidance document. We have brought them to the focus teams, for example. And it's a guidance document. There's nothing, no one gets in trouble for not following these. It's a recommendation.
What is NESWG at the?
NESOG.
NESOG. It is an agriculture, they do a big conference. I don't know if I'd call them an advocacy group, but they are an agricultural sector, and they had a list of agreements that I was first introduced to, and that's where I picked up there.
It's the Northeast something agricultural working group. I can't remember.
Okay.
Maybe Northeast Sustainable Agricultural Working Group?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mouthful.
So Nissan.
Yeah.
The only words I struggle with a little bit is the feel into, not feeling like feel in person. I like emotional language, but it just doesn't quite work for me, but it's okay. It works for everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd probably say as we formulate something.
So you would
It's clear. I mean, like feel into is so open for, it doesn't really say all that much.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would probably just say formulate. As we stumble, we allow ourselves to stumble as we formulate.
Okay.
But that, if everybody else likes the other one, that's totally fine.
I continue to have issues with the word articulate
Oh, yeah, where is that?
because of the implications.
Oh, yeah.
We can't be exact all the time. We can't be great communicators all the time. We can't. Or do you want to make it positive? What if we said we try to be good communicators?
Is this about finding the right words?
Yeah.
Right, right. Can't be judgmental if someone doesn't say it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about we won't always say the right thing? Is that's like a value judgment, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's good. Because it's true. I don't care how quote unquote articulate you are.
Great, that's great. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you, Katrina.
I would, sorry, I'm getting really, just thinking about other traditions that talk about like right speech and all of that. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I would say something more, we don't always say the right thing, that can be kind of contentious. You know, I probably would say something like, we aren't, we strive to be clear with our words. So we try to be clear with our words, but there's something like that shows we're trying, but we aren't always there. Not always saying the right thing could be a little nefarious too, right? I don't know if I'm wordsmithing too much, but.
No, I agree.
Yeah, because right is can be subjective, but
Yeah.
It's maybe more neutral.
We strive to be clear with our words. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not judgmental, we all try, right? Then it says, it explains it, we give ourselves space, patience, and time to figure out. So it's getting a nod to that all of us struggle at times to find our words.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for all that feedback. That's excellent. And I plan to bring this up again next year. So this is a crack at trying to get it right this time, and then we'll keep fumbling our way through it next year as well. Any last additions or thoughts?
We'll keep making it clearer.
Yes. Thank you, Eric. All right. Commissioners, do you feel like you want to review it more, or would you like to vote on it this month?
I think we can go on it this one.
Great. I could hear a mission to adopt the meeting agreements.
So moved.
Thank you, Maria. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I got Eric beat you and do it right. So all in favor, give me your thumbs up, your eye. Thank you so much. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We'll use that as a guiding document.
I have a question. Is that going to be posted on the Well Kingston webpage?
Yeah, that's great. I think it might, the old version might be, so I will double check and update it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Next is just a note, this commission spent quite a time talking about the zoning code. And I just wanted to make sure you all were aware that that passed. The city of Kingston has a new zoning code, and we heard from the director of housing that he thanked this commission for their letter and for that feedback. Just want to make sure you follow up on that for you. Next up is advocacy versus lobbying. We've talked a little bit about that in this commission. And I even still sort of struggle with where boundaries are with this. Kristen, you participated in a meeting recently that had some clarity. I was going to invite you to share about that. And then there's an upcoming event that I'll mention. But if you'd like to share, why don't you take it up?
Yeah, definitely. This won't be too long. And I've mentioned this to a few people. In August, I attended a New York State Food Policy Council Summit. And so this was the first of its kind of this group, perhaps of any Food Policy Council Summit. And I know that the Well Kingston is not a Food Policy Council in itself, but it acts as one, it's like a de facto food policy council essentially, but by the way that, some of the actions that it takes. And so I went there, it was in Syracuse, it was really fascinating. I got to meet with a lot of people who are part of other food policy councils from across the state. And one of the sessions was really interesting. It was with the Johns Hopkins Center for Livable Future, and they had their folks there who were essentially like experts in food policy councils. And it came down to this conversation on advocacy versus lobbying. And it was fun. It was interesting because I've been really curious about this because I think that the people who are often the most knowledgeable in policies are often the people who are not able to, they feel like affect them the most because we work in positions where we're not allowed to lobby or in positions where there are very strict rules with regards to lobbying. And so I'm just always curious about what that line is because I like to know exactly what the line is, so stay within it, not go across it, but also maybe to get really close to it. And, so something that they shared during that was that between advocacy and lobbying, that on a federal level, you can speak with legislators about legislation, but you cannot put a call to action on how to vote. So you could speak with them about the pros and cons of legislation, but you can't say at the end, and please vote for this, please do not vote for this. So I was like, okay, that's really interesting. Like that is more than what I thought was allowable until someone in this session said, actually, in New York State, you cannot do that. That in New York State, there are stricter rules and that you cannot even mention legislation if you are only doing advocacy. Once again, if you're doing lobbying, that's completely separate. That's a different conversation. But if you're doing advocacy, you cannot mention any legislation. So I would say this as a plug, if you're interested in that, this upcoming training is specifically hosted by a New York State institution. And so what I'm really curious is to attend this and to get more clarification on how the laws in New York State might be different than some of these federal laws. And the other thing that was really interesting that we talked about during this session, well, one, as a government embedded commission, that you're not allowed to lobby, you can only do advocacy work. For the Well Kingston, if it was a nonprofit, that would be separate, but you're appointed, it's not me, I work here. You are appointed by the mayor, and so that, creates certain structure for this commission. But they did say one thing that they see a lot of groups do, and I've heard about this when I was working down at Food Bank in the city, was that they will, if they feel like on a state level, there's something that they would like, a new policy change they would like to see is pairing with a registered lobbyist. So the American Heart Association has registered lobbyists and they do the lobby work. You would never do lobby work. You are not allowed to do lobbying work, but you can provide the education in collaboration with the registered lobbyists. And I'm sure some of you at your organizations are very familiar with that setup. And that seems to be one of the things they were recommending for food policy councils if they would like to kind of wade into the state and federal policy waters, is to identify that. So 2 things I thought were really interesting. Basically, more questions that I had and the public health advocacy training coming up, I think would be really helpful in answering them.
And that's what I've got up on the screen, and it costs $10. And Katrina's already registered.
I am too.
Thank you, Susanna's registered. So if you'd like to join, my department can pay for it. Just shoot me an email and I will register you. So I'm really looking forward to this because I think that it's being hosted by the New York State Public Health Association, and it feels like this is going to answer a lot of our questions. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistic about it. Any questions about that? I guess in some ways we're sort of saying we don't have all the answers to your questions at this moment, but we're looking to figure them out for you.
Emily, I'd like to register.
Thank you, Troy.
Not only for Well Kingston, but all the other spaces. Just to be clear.
Yeah, it's very interesting and it sounds confusing, and I just wonder. A couple of times on behalf of the American College of Cardiology, we went down to Washington, D.C., and we visited our legislators, a number of them, some of ours and some not, people who are involved with voting for various, I can't remember which budget issues, but there were specific bills that dealt with coverage for cardiac rehabilitation. It addressed, funding levels for various cardiac testing and stuff like that. So we were speaking specifically to legislation, and we were asking our legislators to vote in certain ways to support access to care, cardiac rehab, and so forth. So were we lobbyists or were we advocates?
I do this, so I may say something. So the Institute for Family Health, we do a lot of this. In fact, we actually employ a part-time lobbyist to help lobby for community health centers and teaching health center grants and National Health Service Corps. But we have to separate just that out from our budget, and we can't use federal funds for lobbying, what's considered lobbying. And there's lots of, community health centers across the country, thousands of us descend out in Washington in March and ask for our senators and Congress people to vote for very specific issues to support federal funding for community health centers. So it's lobbying. It's considered lobbying. So, and it's okay, except it depends on the guidelines for the funding that you're using for staff time to do that. But this has to do with the commission.
Right.
Yeah, so what we're talking about like the commission's, the commission cannot.
We're in your commission hat.
Yeah.
Commission.
Commission.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everybody. So that we'll find out more at that training, which I'm looking forward to. That comes to the end of our old business. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, we'll move on to a presentation from Growell. Nobody's got their hands up. Marcia, looks like you have a lovely slideshow here. I'll share my screen. All right.
So good. Beautiful landscape.
Hi, everyone. So, Cindy is going to be joining, me this evening to give an update about how our Grow Well focus team, is doing. As I do with my other focus teams, especially for Grow Well, I have been taking photographs of what's been happening all year, and I finally found a place to put many of them because it's nice to capture images to tell a story of what Grow Well is about. And I know that you all as administrators and give your time to like this work to take a break from reading print. So there are 4 goals on our current action plan. I'm going to just speak to the highlights of 3 of them. So the first goal is that Grow Well team is develop and sustainable. And one of the actions that we agreed upon was that we would start having meetings in person that we would work to be inclusive of neighbors and folks in the community to join Grow Well. At this time, and throughout this presentation, just want to acknowledge our dedicated and amazing garden stewards, Sasha, Trish, Joel, and Cindy. This photo was taken during this year's community garden tour, but we can move on. Next slide. And please let me know if you have questions. So we did achieve taking the Zoom out the room, as I like to call it, because of, coming out of the pandemic with so many meetings being online. We had a Grow Well meeting over at Barman Park this spring, which was pretty cool. Can move on there. Another thing impacting the sustainability of our community gardens, the South Pine Street City Farm had some concerns that the owners of that property, the Binnenwater Ice Company, may expand their fleet into some of the garden space. And there was an agreement this year that would not happen. And so, the farm was able to have a very thriving season. You can move on. And they had like volunteers. They're currently working with KLT and volunteers from the the Kingston Co-op. And their Tuesday market with free fruits and veggies is still open if you ever want to swing by on a Tuesday. And in the spring, here is Cindy and the crew bringing in some soil. We got the job done.
Great pictures.
Okay. Other things. So in addition to getting support from our longtime partners at the YMCA Y Farm project, last year we began working with Soil to Soul, who made a delivery of compost to Roundup Community Gardens this year. And we are celebrating our second year in partnership with Ulster Youth Build, which is a longtime Kingston vocational program that has out-of-school youth who are obtaining their high school diploma. They're going for their GED, and they're also learning building trade and landscaping, and we have an agreement with them that they work with our community gardens as a part of their community service.
Who did the painting of that fence? I mean, you can't tell here, but it's absolutely adorable when you drive down that street
So
to see it.
Sasha, who is the steward for Roundup Gardens, is also an artist.
Okay.
And she also painted the shed that Ulster Youth built. I think you could see it just a little bit down in the right side corner on there in that photo.
Mm-hmm.
Continue. So work that was done by Ulster Youth Build this year included the replacement of broken fence. So the Derek from Ulster Youth Build came out and did some assessment of what materials would be needed earlier in the spring. You know, there like Murray Street area is unfortunately subject to vandalism at times, like with that fence. And I will tell you, when in July, when we were out there pulling weeds and repairing the fence, and neighbors and people saw us doing this work, the message we were sending is we're always going to rebuild. And so this is what we have to do with spaces in Kingston, to give them some TLC, whether it's our community gardens or a new midtown like Linear Park. We just have to be dedicated to continue to beautify the space and let people know this space is cared for. And if there's damage to it, we're going to come back and we're just going to fix it up again for the people who live here. A new partnership this year was with the ARC Mid Hudson, the Pecora Center in Midtown. And they serve adults with disabilities. And Cindy, as a part of the education work that she does out of Grow Well, did a workshop and some seed sowing. Anything you want to chime in, Cindy, about that day?
About that day?
Do you remember?
Well, you know, what is it, the Hope Springs Eternal or Spring Hopes Eternal? Everybody was really excited that they got to plant some seeds. It was sort of the kickoff to their trying out having a few garden beds at the Roundup Gardens this year. So they were super excited about it, and they did plant some beds. They found it difficult to get there this summer as often as they would like, but I think from that they learned that they would like to have some beds right at their building. So it was all good. Yeah.
I think I will say, please go on. That right here, that opportunities for future work for Grow Well would be assisting organizations who might want to start garden beds at their facilities. At this time, Roundup Gardens is one of the best options environmentally to have folks with disabilities come out because of the amount of space between garden beds, and that you can pull up a van right to the garden without going up and down any stairs. So opportunity to build an ADA garden, and not just for folks who have a developmental disability, but for anyone who may have some mobility issues. Another thing that the staff brought up would be having community gardens with access to public bathrooms, especially like for this group, or any one of us who need to go to the bathroom when we're out gardening. So here they are sowing seeds. Just go back just a little bit there, Emily, I'm sorry. Yeah. And having some fun. And the staff at the ARC was amazing, and we thank them for their support to this garden. Okay, another thing, I'm sorry, please continue. So on our second goal was to bring awareness to the community that these gardens exist. And so we had our second annual garden tour. We put a little twist to it. We made it a bicycle tour as well. And one of the successes of this was that we had a program with where the stops would be. And in doing so, people were able to hop on and hop off the tour. You know, it was very cool. Please continue. And we had our kickoff at the George Washington garden there. There's one of our neighbors. I think he's sniffing or about to eat something, but it was a fun day. Yeah, the mayor put it in his weekly newsletter. It was on Kingston Happenings. We really made a splash. Here are people joining us at the city farm. It was such a cool day. It was super cool. I want to take a pause here and have Cindy talk about her work that's happening at the Barman Community Garden.
Okay. Well, it's funny because the kids, I was just over there and I garden with the children at the Boys and Girls Club, and today's not the normal day, but I had a few things I wanted to do there, and so I went over and said if anybody wants to come out for 45 minutes. And they were asking me, how many years did it take me how many years did it take to grow this garden? And I think it was only 3 years, but was it more than that? I mean,
I feel like it's maybe had fits in the starts.
yeah.
Like maybe there was a garden there and then it sort of got remember when we cleaned it out?
Right, that one, but they were like, well, it was before COVID, I think it was before COVID, and then COVID came. But anyway, the garden is thriving there. With good thanks from the generous amounts of rain we got this summer as well, that always helps. But there are 5 community garden members who garden there, as well as the Boys and Girls Club.
Cool.
And this year we made the garden a true community garden in that we grew one big patch of tomatoes and one big patch of zucchini, and everybody shared it, and one big patch of everything. And I think there were way more vegetables than anybody could use. So some of it got donated to the Blue Fridge, and sometimes the Boys and Girls Club takes it home. So it's been a really great summer there.
Does anyone have any questions about?
I just wondered, was it too rainy this summer? Growing, yeah.
Well, actually, it didn't really start raining until July. So May and June were actually quite dry. And there were a few things that did suffer. Our kale kind of just, it was too much rain and some of it rotted. But on the other hand, you know, and tomatoes were a little bit more diseased, but other things, you know, flourished. So
My peppers are flourishing.
peppers are great.
Swiss chard are good.
Swiss chard, there's lots of things. So every year is like that. Something's up, something's down, but.
Excuse me, Cindy, could you speak a little bit to what we see when we drive by happening with the Metro building and whether or not that's had any impact on access to the gardens? Obviously, a phenomenal year for harvesting.
Right.
Any news there?
Well, I mean, the first, I think it was sometime around May and June and into July where they drilled 40, I want to say 450 wells for the geothermal. So there were some parts of the day that you just couldn't be there. It was very loud. And then just as all of our peas were being ready to harvest, they were covered with this dust.
Oh.
Mud, something. So then the gardeners were a little bit afraid to eat the peas. But eventually, they moved on, and they've been very good neighbors to us. They have supplied us with the water, in times when it's dry. There's a portage on there, which is really nice. They even made our own, they try to support us in every way possible. I noticed today when I went, because there's still fence all around it, and it's looking like it's gonna be there for a while. I'm not sure what they're doing. And so that kind of does make a narrow tunnel for us to enter, but there's actually a sign now that says Barman Community Garden.
And the Metro building did?
Yeah, it's right in with all the
that's awesome.
it sort of blends in. This side says Metro, this side says Community Garden. That being said, with all that, not only is there fence, but there's those sign banners on the fence. It does make that, it just kind of is constricting in that sometimes people hang out back there that maybe is less than desirable, but I haven't had any terrible problems so far. There's a pile of wood chips, which also sort of, it's just another blockage. So I'm having the kids work on taking that pile and spreading it out for the winter.
We like helping hands. Thank you, Cindy. Just some more pictures. There's Emily speaking to some folks. People, they just, every time I turned around, someone showed up and someone left. It was pretty awesome. Okay, continue. And here's Pat giving the tour at the Y Farm. Oh my gosh, that was pretty cool. I felt like I was on vacation in like another place. I was like, wait, I'm still in Kingston? It was like dreamy. It's so beautiful. And they have a whole pollinator project that I didn't have. I tried to keep this to 19 slides because I was going up towards like doubling it. Anyway, yes, so thank you to Pat for that amazing tour. And then the tour ended.
Before we move,
yes.
I mentioned, so the Y Farm is really upped their compost projects this year. I'm really impressed by, I think Pat is leading that.
Yeah.
And I think they are in some ways, I think, an inspiration for our other spaces. They're really doing some dynamic work there. And of course, they had their community gathering last night, which was absolutely lovely.
Yeah. Oh man. This is where the tour ended. This was, I think, the last weekend where we were dealing with the smoke from the Canadian fires. So it was a little bit of a taxing day. I actually chose to drive and walk instead of bike because it was bothering me. But I gotta tell you, all things considered, we had a lovely turnout. I think we had about 25 community members come out and join us. And here at the end, the Kingston Land Trust met us here because they were going to start their event at 1:00. So it was just, if you wanted to be out all day, there was something to do. And here is Sasha with the yellow glasses, just showing everyone around what's happening with Round Out. And that's me cheesing with the peace sign. And so there's some, seems to be many common denominators in our action plan goals. They all feed into the sustainability and growth and support to these community gardens. I just want to acknowledge that last year, Grow Well, that I led a project to around providing a stipend to garden stewards and some incentive for community members to learn and enjoy gardening. And the Y Farm received a grant from the New York State Urban Community Gardens, and that is going to be supporting a $600 stipend for our existing garden stewards. And monies will also be used to purchase things like compost and topsoil and hay and wood chips, and to do some community education, and to purchase gardening toolkits for garden enthusiasts. As we look to be more inclusive of our BIPOC neighbors here in the city, to get people on board. That's a part of the support. Once again, just want to thank our dedicated garden stewards there. And also, I think that this year, in terms of bringing on new team members, not included in this presentation, I did not have enough time, was to show you some installations along the Green Line where Rondout Community Garden is, that our department was able to purchase through CHIS funding. And that includes a bike racks, benches, a bike fix-it station, picnic tables, message boards along the Green Line. Again, these are opportunities for us to be, to create more visibility, that Rondout is supported by community members and people can come in and enjoy gardening there. So I think that this year has been successful in thinking about the relationship that Barman has with Cindy and the Metro building, right? So that's the neighbor here. And at Rondout Community Gardens, the increased communication between Kingston Housing Authority and the Health and Wellness Department, and looking at what infrastructure, how we can support that garden there, and the agreement, albeit a verbal agreement, but the communication that goes on between Trish and Joel and the Binny Water Company at that community garden. I think it's just really, it's been a very positive year for thinking about sustainability and how we can give incentives to future garden stewards. This year, Cindy said something to me that devastated me. She told me that one day she would retire. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. You mean that you're not just gonna do this forever in my lifetime? So,
When my legs fall off.
oh my goodness.
It's a funny comment to bring up, because we have a farm crew where we, have youth come through a program where they learn about it. And, their question is, well, why am I doing all this? Why are you showing us how to do this? And, it's like, well, we hope someday that you will either take over for us or do it someplace else. And they're like, oh. Yeah, they're like, oh, just didn't even think about it.
I feel the same way in thinking about, Troy Ellen, not being a part of this group, like Ormalia, not being part of this group. We must, succession planning has to be a part of all of our work, especially with volunteers. We know you could have the best structured program or plan on paper. It is the people who are doing the work, how it's executed. You're not going to find that in a playbook. It comes from the dedication and a spirit from individuals. Systems are made up of individual people. And I don't know, just all of that to say that succession planning is important, and how much the work that all of you do and the folks in the community do is needed and appreciated.
Yeah, and I think that's why sustainability has been one of our biggest goals for Grow Well. Because for a while there, we were really, I think, trying to pull this little, during COVID is really when some of that work started, and really trying to solidify it so that it carries on in new phases and chapters. And I think we're really hitting a nice stride here. I'm really excited about it. It's a great presentation. I have a question. So recently, the city of Kingston started this pilot composting program, which I'm sure I'm not the only one in here who's taking part in it. Is that connected to Grow Well in any way? I don't remember or know anything about where the compost that they're producing ends up, but I would hope that it stays within the city.
That's a great question, and I'll let Emily chime in also. So the sustainability coordinator, Julie Noble, led that project, and it's actually a phased project. So phase one is that there are compost bins placed there is one at Rondout Community Gardens, and they are at City of Kingston buildings. You must be a resident in order to participate. It's free. You sign up, you get your unique code so that you can open up the bins. And then future phases will be, it's going to be open to city residents and then to businesses.
It's not directly related in that the compost that is being made stays at the garden, if that's what you're sort of asking. It does go, I believe it goes to Accra, and I believe it's part of a larger kind of composting system.
Okay.
But I believe that different organizations and community members can get compost from Accra, which is Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. Thank you, that's a good effort. But those sites that Marcia mentioned are in different municipal locations, and there's one at Rondout Gardens. There is one at Barman. One at Barman.
Right on the street.
Yeah, there's one at Midtown Neighborhood Center, and you can always reach out to Julie to find out all those locations. Does that answer your question?
It does. I'm just curious how many other people are participating in it right now.
Anybody else here?
Composting?
The compost.
Yeah, I bring my compost down to Blackbird.
Oh, they have one there, like, oh no, so that's like their own thing, that's not a City of Kingston one?
And then it goes to Accra.
Oh, I see,
But
okay.
is it part of the City of Kingston's?
I'm not sure how Andrew
Yeah.
has it set up.
Yeah.
I just, I wonder if this is an opportunity for us to send a letter saying, like, we're glad to see this, and because we oversee Grow Well, we'd like to be in conversation about how this effort develops, and it seems like Grow Well would have a lot to say about how the compost gets used, and so if we sort of put a marker in for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be some metrics too. I mean, they must keep track of how much compost is.
They are. I've been getting like weekly emails
Oh, have you?
weekly about it. I think it's succeeded so far beyond their wildest expectations. Like, because there are only, I think it's about 300 people who signed up for the pilot, and only about half of them picked up their packets and had the actual code. And so they had, we're talking less than 200 families were signed up, and in the first week, Julie sent us this email like, we've got a ton of compost already. I think they have to go around and empty the bins more often than they expected, but that's great. That's still be plenty. There should be plenty for these community gardens.
Yeah.
And for other people who want to have backyard gardens or whatever, like just making that information. I'm sure that's part of their intent, but there should be a collaboration, it seems like, between that office and Live Well.
I mean, so did you feel like you need compost currently?
Well, I mean, making compost is just another business. It would not be possible for people to like deposit their food in our gardens and compost pile because there are issues with vermin. And it has to be, so it's like a manufacturing, you've got to aerate it, you've got to turn it, you've got to have the right ingredients. It's not just the food that people put in there. So that costs money. And I know that you can buy compost from Accra and it's a very reasonable rate. And sometimes we do that, So yeah, it's a whole thing.
In fact, we are putting signs at one of our community gardens telling people to please not just throw stuff into the compost pile unless it was grown in this garden.
Yeah.
So there, what we're hearing is a need for more like education because someone maybe was putting food scraps into the compost bin at one of the community gardens, and that's not what goes in there. You know, just like weeds and, other things.
That was, when we did that study through the farm project, Jess, it was the student who did it. That was primarily the issue, because she had to go through every compost by hand to make sure that it wasn't, and even coming off of a community garden, if you have diseased tomatoes, you don't want to have them thrown in the compost, you know, so it's like.
That was another thing that Julie put in her initial email. She said it's like a ton of compost and no contaminants, which I think was pretty
That's
amazing.
amazing.
That's probably because most of the people who would sign up for a pilot are people who've done it before,
That's
and, you know, so less education is needed.
Yeah.
But there's, as you point out, there's clearly an education component to this as well, where we could potentially be helpful.
Yeah, and we are so lucky that we are in the same building as
Yeah.
Julie in the Parks and Rec department. That's been really lovely for us. So I think that there's more opportunities for cross communications, getting the word out. We've taken her flyers to some of our tabling events. I'm sure that maybe at some point, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but my brain is going to, maybe we could ask if any of her community members are interested in grow well and gardening. So there's some great opportunities for
Yeah,
cross.
seems like there's a lot of cross pollination.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
When it does get to the business phase, let me know, because when we have extra stuff at the end of the day, we have a farmer that we work with, but she can't take all of our product. So we'll talk more
Good to know.
later.
Anything else with any other grow well questions? Any other thoughts?
Nice presentation. Those are great pictures.
Thank you. Thank you both.
That brings us to the end of our focus team presentation. Next up would be new business. We didn't have anything beforehand for the agenda. If there's no other new business, we can move on to announcements and communications. And if no one's raised their hand, Eric, I know you sent something. Do you want to talk about your?
Sure. So I sent a couple flyers to Emily. It's that time of year again where we're already thinking about Christmas. So our Christmas and Thanksgiving this year, we are under the umbrella now and have a memorandum of understanding with our friends at People's Place. So we are all working together in this effort, so that way we're not working against each other, but helping the community at large. So they will be providing us with the to-go Thanksgiving meals. We will have a to-go hot meal the day before Thanksgiving at our location. And then for Christmas, they will also be helping with the toy distribution that we have. With that being said, we want to encourage as many people to sign up as possible, whether it's with us, People's Place, or some of their other organizations that they have. And our specific dates are October 2nd through the 13th, minus Columbus / Individual Peoples Day. So that way we'll have that day off. The first week especially, we have several translators. So we're encouraging the Hispanic community or Spanish-speaking people to come out that week, because we will best be able to serve them, or they will get my broken Spanish the next week and we'll muddle through it together. But yeah, we really want as many people who are in need to be served as possible. So.
Do people have to be below a certain income level to qualify?
They can come in. What we ask for is whatever bills you have versus whatever income you have. If you are federally subsidized most of the way, we just put the bills away and say, let's start the application process. We have never turned anyone away because of how much money they make. So it's never really been an issue, and People's Place doesn't even look at any of that. They have to for certain reasons, but with them, you just go and say, I am in need, and you can sign up.
I understand. And I'm glad you do that, but that's not clear on this document, because it makes it seem, you know, when we said, like, if you earn 70,000, but your bills are 60,000, I'm making it up, but you know what I'm saying, then you would qualify.
Yeah.
But that's not clear on this. So perhaps, I can't think of the way to state it.
Okay.
Perhaps make that clear to people,
Yeah.
because there are certainly, just a second. there are certainly, I mean, you know, the Alice household, there are
Right.
people out there who often think they don't qualify for these kinds of
Right.
things, even though they're struggling.
Yes, thank you so much, I appreciate that feedback.
I
There's
noticed
also people who are, aren't eligible for any of these benefits because they're.
They're undocumented.
So it says proof of income, social security stuff, they don't have any of those.
So, what we would then say is if you have anything that says you're a person who lives in Ulster County, which we get many refugee cards, and that, and for our food pantry especially, then we'll take that at face value. But it is difficult in our past, because what we then do is, especially for the toy portion, we then send it out to make sure those children get those toys that are on the little angels at Walmart and Sam's Club.
Right.
So this year, we're gonna tweak our part to get closer to people's place, as they are much more open, but it'll take a little while for our part to fully
Right.
be umbrellaed under them.
No, I think this is wonderful and everything. I'm just trying to
No,
make sure that the communication
appreciate
in
it,
the
yeah.
community is clear to people.
And we will be at the Hispanic Heritage Festival, wherever it may be held on Saturday. I just talked to now Alderman Andrews as he was leaving and I was coming in, and whether it's raining or not, it's gonna happen. And we'll have these flyers out in English and
Perfect.
Spanish
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
community.
What are they gonna do? That would be good too.
They might move it to the rec center,
Yeah.
like you said.
Oh.
Yeah.
the YMCA often uses language like no one will ever be turned away due to lack of.
Ability to pay.
Ability to pay,
That's
that's
the
nice
national
language.
line.
I've always liked that,
Fantastic, thank you
it's
so
a
much.
good discussion. Heidi, did you have a question? Chris, did you have a question?
I just, did you send this to us and I just didn't?
I did.
I sent it to her about 3:11.
Okay, so if you want to share it with me, I can make sure that I.
Okay, terrific.
And I'm sharing with UIDM.
Yeah, so we've talked to them because we did backpacks, they did backpacks, they were asking us for stuff. I said, let's sit down and have a conversation about what this all can look like,
Right.
so.
Christina, did you?
Yeah, I just have to go soon, so I have to pick up my baby from daycare. I wanted to share two things that are going on for work that I thought you might be interested in. One, we talked about this before, but the food systems plan, so the city of Kingston has put out an RFP for anyone who's not familiar with it, to develop a food systems plan that will, the aim is to strengthen our local food system and while doing so improve food security. There's a whole lot more to it than that. But as a part of this food system plan, we are asking the consultant to take a look essentially at the assets that the city of Kingston has, and one was being the Department of Health and Wellness and our team and Live Well Kingston and our focus teams, and include those as part of their recommendations for the actions that the city of Kingston should be taking either on its own or in collaboration with its community partners to strengthen our food system. So I bring that up because I think maybe like collaborations like, you know, Grow Well with the sustainability office would be a recommendation they might have. You know, and the commission is listed currently as a recommended stakeholder group for the consultants to meet with. It won't be the only one, but there are some that are listed on there that I was like, you should definitely meet with these people. Put this in your plan. You will be talking to these people as you develop the food system plan. So if you have ideas, keep those ideas, share those ideas once they talk to you. We had to re-release the RFP because we got some additional funding for it, and it changed the scope of work because it changed the budget significantly, and so it is due on September 29th. So there are hopes that we will be able to begin this project either by the end of October or beginning of November. And the term is set for anywhere between 7 to 12 months. It's based upon the recommendation of the consultant, whatever they propose. So you have that going on, which is really exciting. And then also, if you haven't seen, we have a Veggie of the Month campaign. So we're creating healthy schools and communities. Yes, this month is peppers. Okay, good. Someone else told me about my campaign, not knowing that I was like running this campaign the other day. Oh my God, it's the best one ever. I was like, yes. I know, when I let her explain it, she's like, oh, did you know at the farmer's market, they're like talking about peppers today? I was like, tell me more. What are they doing with peppers? And I was like, just kidding, I know all about it. But I'm super excited about it. So this is out of the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities team. Nat Warner, if any of y'all work with her, who works for now Cooperative Extension Ulster County, she's fantastic. She's our school coordinator. And they Land to Learn was already doing a bunch of Veggie of the Month programs in the schools that they're working in. And she was like, oh, I want to do them in my schools. And then she was like, Kristen, do you want to do it across the city? Like, you don't even have to tell me, I'm already typing up a project description. We're doing it right now. I'm emailing everybody. So September is peppers. October is kale and collards. We can talk about everything on my baby, but I love having conversations about we can't do kale, we have to do collards as well. So I'm excited to have both of them. And then November is carrots. There is on the Well Kingston website, there's a page that has all the participating members. I counted them up. It's around like 43 participating locations, including like 16 restaurants. I think like 4 or 5 schools are participating. Salvation Army, the Blue Pantry is participating. I'll have to sign up. I saw it when I stopped by. KFC is participating. I was really excited. We were able to, it was really important to me to have our food pantry and other food distribution partners participate in this because it didn't want cost to be a barrier. There's a number of reasons why people don't try new vegetables at all. So I'm really excited that we can have y'all participate. So thank you. Yeah, so go around, eat some peppers, or maybe like share it online. There's a hashtag Kingston Eats Veggies. If you know of any other locations, you're like, oh, like they like have food and do food things, like they would probably want to be a part of this. Literally, all you have to do is like, Kristen, I want to join, and I'm gonna highlight the vegetable each month. And I was like, cool. Do you want to sign? I'll print it off and use Marshall's laminator. And bring it on, or Marshall might have laminated for me. Well, she did. She laminated the first ones for me. That's why I said that. I wasn't like volunteering her to laminate them for me.
Wait, the city has a laminator, or it's your personal one?
No, it's in like it's in like the office of like the first time I used it.
The expert.
Yeah, Marcia was like, I got it.
I know, but we have signage that needs to be laminated.
Oh yeah. Well, you're just signed right now, so I know.
And that's in your shirt.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll give you some signs laminated.
I'll put them in touch with you.
So yeah, I just want to share about the whole point is that we're just trying to make food fun and it just happens to be healthy food. So that's all. Those are my 2 announcements I just wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kristen.
Before we go to another answer, back to you, Eric, we talked about the collaboration between People's Place, do you have a flyer that is all of it together, or is there one place where for the community to find out about all those different things in one place?
I would talk to Christine Hine
Yeah.
at People's Place. She would have all material for that.
Thank you, Kristen. Other announcements, communications, personal, from your organizations? Okay.
Well, I know Halloween's right around the corner. So we have the annual Halloween collaboration with My Kingston Kids. And we have the parade and then the festival at the Y. There's also one at Siwakamono. Both are no charge. And we'll meet again in November. Stuff.
Just Pine Street Family Health Center, not yet open. The last things, believe it or not, is the signage, the big sign, like a 3-tray installation. It's complicated, and you can't get like Department of Health approval until you have a sign.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes.
Kindly signed, Clinton Avenue. They put something up temporary, right?
That's true, they might not just roll it.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, no, I know. I think we're working with, I don't know who actually all the trades that we're working with for it, but there's some other things, like there's an elevator glitch and.
Well, you got electric to it probably.
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
there's electric, yeah, I don't know all the details, but we're getting closer and I think the opening date is still sometime in October.
Looks great.
Yeah, I know, that's great, it does. And I don't know the opening date for an opening, but we're gonna invite hope is, if we can pull this off, it's actually like a whole day long community event. Do the whole speaker thing in the morning and then have a whole,
Nice.
make a barbecue and kind of invite people and do have it kind of fun too. But I'll let people know once we have a firmer date. And then we're gonna have this multi-purpose room. It's gorgeous, light-filled, big, huge windows with blinds if you want to pull them down. Opening it up to communities. Spent a long time at the Latino Independence Day Festival with Margie Bernard from the kind of asking about how they get not they don't rent out, they don't charge people, I guess, unless they're for profit, but how they deal with non-profits coming in and all that. So I'm just trying to get some guidance on that. So
Will that room have like a smart TV where people could do like what we're doing here, but for the community?
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Anything in KFC land, your notes? Or in any of your other projects that you know?
Kingston Emergency Food Collaborative has a memorandum of understanding with Clinton Avenue United Methodist Church. So we are going to have cold, dry storage. Our partnerships with food pantries, primarily due to the regional food bank requirements, were ended, and we have been, buying food on Tuesday nights, packing it up once a month, buying food Wednesday morning, packing it up and getting it. And now we'll be able to have food drives and things like that because we will have cold dry storage. And the first delivery, thanks to Emma Jean and Pastor Joy, the first deliveries will be going on next week from the church. Prior to that, we used Blackbird Info Shop. He gave us his space to be able to do that since he's closed Tuesday. He's closed Wednesdays, so we would pack Tuesdays after he closed. So that was very helpful. I love the way the community comes together. We also have partnered with, we're an approved partner with the Farm Hub, so we get produce deliveries. And as a result of that, Andrew called this a cheat code. It's like having a cheat code. We said, gee, could we get produce deliveries for the Wilbur Free Fridge? And we can.
Nice.
So
You just had to ask.
we just had to ask. Like I said, I love this community.
Yeah.
And one last thing that popped into my head a week ago, but I forgot to write it down, and I probably should have put it in new business. I'm not going to be a part of this commission long enough for this, but one of the initiatives that I'd like to explore, and we can't do it ourselves, but perhaps we can help coordinate various groups in the community, is a buying co-op that would benefit not only nonprofits, whether it's Angel Food East, KFC, whoever, but also some of the smaller businesses, because they go out.
Like what?
The buying co-op where we come together and can therefore buy in volume
Leverage.
at a discount. So instead of, people at Nikasita going out and spending God knows how much, and the people at El Paqueria going out and spending, whatever. And so it's a buying co-op, but it also requires storage.
Yeah.
Obviously,
So-
cold and dry storage.
Would that be part of the food proposal or that's going out now? The food plan? Because that sounds like it would fit in nicely with that if you put it in so that, obviously so that these smaller grocers could be competitive if they were part of a co-op.
And it would benefit KEFC,
Oh,
for example, because we would be able to,
Absolutely.
instead of going to Sam's Club,
And of which you don't, I get you, you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
So that's a brilliant idea.
I mean, it's not anything that's gonna happen overnight, but, but it's the kind of thing it's the Kingston Food Co-op, because they're sort of trying to figure out the plan B.
If there was I guess you'd have to say where would it happen, but if there could be some sort, it's a buying co-op.
Yeah, I was at a new idea meeting this morning, the health committee, and they were talking about how food pantries in general are having a really hard time right now, the cost.
Yeah.
Basically, that's kind of what we're talking about too.
Yeah, anybody could be, a part of this. I mean, yes, People's Place, for example, gets tons of donations, but they also purchase from the food bank.
Right.
And they get the free, they get the mid-price, and then they get the top tier.
And are you just talking about food, or are you talking about other things as well?
It could be other things.
So, yeah, I can see.
That's why I said a buying co-op.
So, exactly.
I mean, it might start specifically with ingredients.
Yeah.
But if you're part of a, like, say, a smaller neighborhood market, which, I mean, that's allow them to do what they need to run their market, to supply folks in their neighborhoods.
Right. I mean, we used to do that on a smaller scale when I was a teenager, everybody, parents used to get together and go to the Bronx Terminal Market.
Yeah.
And then, they'll fill up the station wagons and the Buicks
Yeah.
and.
Yeah,
And the food co-op, there might be some goal overlap there, so it would definitely be worth talking about.
No, they should be part of this.
right.
They should be part of this, but definitely, I just think that it's something that as a commission, I know activism, like saying, let's get people around the table and start having conversations about how this can happen.
It's also sustainability,
Yeah,
because it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Would it fall under this group or like Eat Well or?
You do it a number of different ways.
yeah, I'm
You can make a committee just for that also.
Right. I'm not saying who does it, I'm just saying we should consider doing it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to help.
Yeah.
And that's something that I could be involved in as a community member. But that's something that I could be involved in as a community member, even after a while.
You can always be a guest of the commission meetings.
Yes, thank you.
We love that.
Yeah.
I have to go.
Yeah.
Interpret for a family tonight. School issues, so sorry.
I just want to ask you a quick question.
Okay.
Malia, do you have any announcements, anything you want to share with us?
I
do not.
Cindy, do you have anything about Rowell or anything else you'd like to?
Oh, I would just like to say that, I'm super grateful for the Well, I've been a garden steward for 15 years at George Washington School, out there by myself, lonely. And it's so nice to be able to, have all these connections now, and that there are things that each of us can share and things that I could share with, can help other people out. And as I was sweating, putting a new roof on our shed and Marsha came up with this ultra youth bill, they're coming Friday, bing bang boom. It's like, it feels like a miracle. So I just want to say that, it's working and it's supporting everybody quite well, and I'm sure will continue to expand out over the years. Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to see sort of how far we've come.
Yeah.
You get stuck to the day-to-day and you realize, oh, right, you talk about the time frame. Like when I first started this position, the gardens, I don't think I don't think that they were on our radar much. So we've really come quite a ways. You're right.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's just been a few years, but we've got now this really nice solid base of support, things happening and expanding out.
Dr. Later, do you have any announcements? Anything you'd like to share with the group?
No, nothing new or exciting. Just busy and having a good time.
Well, that's fabulous.
Doing well.
That's
I think, for what it's worth, I guess the only thing that's new is that in the last month, we started doing cardiac MRI studies at Health Alliance, which previously you'd have to travel to Valhalla or Delta City to get those images done, and they're done by the advanced imaging. They're done remotely by the advanced imaging team at Valhalla. So we're very excited about that.
Wonderful. Cool. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I can make a mention of a project I'm working on. Hopefully some of you have seen it. The city of Kingston put out an offer to not-for-profits and businesses to request a bicycle rack. That's a project that I'm working on. We have it was part of our Creating Healthy Schools and Communities grant project that Kristen is the project lead on. And we were able to purchase a bunch of them, and 8 of them have already been installed on city property. And now we reserved 20 for community organizations. And 17 folks have applied. I'm optimistic. I'm a little worried about finding placements. They have to follow ADA accessibility if you're on a sidewalk. And really, ideally, the best material is concrete. As you all know, a lot of our sidewalks are bluestone and brick. So we won't probably be able to do all 17, but we're gonna get some out there and then we'll keep working on it. But I'm also putting it out into the world because we still have a few left and it'll probably, like I said, I want to be optimistic, but there's still opportunities. So if there's organizations that hear about this, please let them know that they can still apply for a bike rack.
That would apply to you, Emily, to City of Kingston?
So you can refer them to me and I will point them to the right website because I don't have it at my fingertips. I didn't have it prepped. But where they can go to the engagekingston.com website, it's there's a couple of clips. It's part of the pedestrian and bicycle master plan. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see the link to the survey. Just send them my email and I'll send them the link. That's probably the easiest way.
Great. Now that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know if Blackbird applied?
I do not believe Blackbird applied.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't.
Does the rack have to be, is it on a concrete slab that is desired, or do you have to install it as part of the concrete slab?
Oh, great question. So the Department of Public Works will probably be able to install it. So they don't need to install it themselves at this time. We'll probably be able to install it for them. Ideally, it would be on concrete. It's possible I'll be able to do some on asphalt. I found some nifty support systems for it. It's called surface mounted. It's mounted on the top. It doesn't go in. Does that answer your question?
And then just curious question. Is there a time frame? I mean, are you ending this at a certain time, or are you just ending it when they're all spoken for?
Yeah, we'll keep going until we've installed them all. And I don't know if I'll get to install them this fall.
Right.
I'm thinking it's unlikely. I think ideally I'll have a list of locations to give DPW so that they can plan that for next year. That's probably what will happen. Then they can incorporate the concrete if it's needed or other things into their budget. I don't know if there was another thing going on. Oh, I'll mention that as we speak is the pedestrian and bicycle count. We've been doing this now twice a year. And this is when we count cyclists and pedestrians at 4 locations along Broadway. Our goal is to see if use increases or decreases, but hopefully increases. And we've added a new location at the Greenkill bike lane, and I'll be counting tomorrow on the linear park. So those are 2 new locations. We won't be doing all 3 days for that, but we'll start to collect some data there as well. So that comes to the end of my announcements and communications. Otherwise, we can end our meeting, and I'll remind us all that our next meeting will be October 18th. And we will have a presentation about Age Well, which Marcia will help again with that next month. Surprise! Okay. And then let me add a reminder that our November meeting, we usually do an all focus teams update. So we invite all of our focus team chairs to come back, do a shorter presentation about their work so that we can sort of cross-pollinate again. And then December, we try to do a healthy potluck in person if we all are feeling comfortable about that. And then I'll just do a final reminder, my homework assignment, think about other commissioners that might be interested. Other than that, any last questions, thoughts, comments? Otherwise, we can end our meeting here tonight.
It was good to see you, Alice.
Yeah. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Great.